let's stick with the NBA and go to Zion Williamson and the latest there. And Rob, yesterday it was announced by the New Orleans Pelicans that Zion Williamson, who has a foot injury and hasn't played a game or a full practice all season.
It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Yes. And
Sad.
So he will now complete his rehab in Portland, Oregon. And that's about as far away from the team as you can get.
Right.
Now, it is not unprecedented for players to rehab away from the team. Some do, some are with the team. So that alone doesn't necessarily have to raise red flags. But Rob, I think the red flags are high. There have been reports that he's not a fan of the GM, David Griffin. He's not a fan of how they've done things and run their business down there in New Orleans. A lot of people have thought he might be the first player ever to reject the long-term max extension that comes after your rookie scale is complete.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'll believe that when I see it.
So this
I can
is
see
the
him
situation.
accepting it, Chris, and then forcing his way out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So that's the situation. And here's what now, Rob, I began thinking a few weeks ago that Zion wasn't going to play this year. Now I'm convinced. Yeah, I really did, because it just obviously his foot didn't seem to be getting any better. They kept pushing back, his times when he would start playing. And then as they continued to lose and struggle, it just began to say, what is the point? And then you start hearing the reports and even talking to people around the league about his weight. And I was just like, I don't think this dude is going to play this year. And now I'm convinced of it with him being in Portland. But here, Rob, I brought up the contract. I've said this before. If I'm Zion Williamson, to your point, turn down the offer. Are you kidding me?
right.
As soon as I'm eligible, and that's at the end of the season, Rob. At the end of this season, as soon as number 82 is done, as soon as the buzzer sounds, my agent is calling David Griffin. Dave, let's get this thing done.
I'm with
5 years, $181 million, Rob. He has got to lock it up. And let me say this before you go. The question is the Pelicans. What do they like? They're in a tough spot, because the last thing you want to do is this guy who's supposed to be a prodigy, supposed to be a superstar, supposed to be the next big thing, supposed to be Rob. A lot of people thought he could end up being the face of the league. And the last thing you want to do is have him go elsewhere and do that, right? You cut him, or you released him, or you didn't sign him, or whatever. You traded him, and he goes elsewhere and becomes this superstar. That's what they have to weigh. But if you sign him and then he can't play, what good does that do you? Now, let me throw out a few precedents. Is he Greg Oden, Rob? We all remember Greg Oden, drafted before Kevin Durant
Greg
in
Oden,
Portland.
It was unbelievable, because when he was drafted, I think he was 45, right?
He looked like it. He definitely looked like it, right? But Zion Williamson has now been eligible for 182 regular season games. He's played 85 of them, Rob. So he's missed 97. He's missed more games than he's played. Greg Oden, in his first 182 games, he played 79. So he played slightly fewer than Zion. Joel Embiid, who's now one of the best players in the league.
Right.
Of his first 182, Rob, he only played 12.
Wow.
Now, he sat out. Remember, he sat out the complete first two seasons in their entirety. And so if you're the Pelicans, you're like, okay, is this Oden? Is this Embiid? Is this somewhere in the middle? Is he better than Embiid? Because Embiid still has, you're always like, oh, every time he falls, oh, and he's going to miss 15 to 25 games a year.
Right.
So where is Zion? That's what they have to figure out, Rob. And that's tough when you're talking about nearly $200 million that you might have to spend.
Chris, I'm going to just step out there. I'm not going to pussyfoot around it or sugarcoat it. If I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, I'm trading Zion as soon as I can. I don't want an Anthony Davis 2.0. I don't believe, like, just his actions, a young guy. I saw him in Houston. You remember when I was in Houston and they played? And I saw, like, how much weight he had put on. You remember I was saying, yeah, I mean, I would be concerned that he can't stay healthy. All ready to talk about not being, happy in New Orleans. Here we go. And also not wanting to be a part of the team and organization.
Right.
He's a young guy
I would be there.
Who should be there, Chris. No, this is my team. I'm not playing now. I want to be around. I want people to know.
I'm at practice.
Yes.
Right. I agree with you.
Dude, don't get comfortable. I'll be back for my spot. Okay?
Right. And, typically that young Rob, you hang, these are your friends.
Right. These are people you're building bonds with.
Right.
You're hanging out. You're playing Madden, Chris, right? You're going to eat.
Right.
That's how you build chemistry and rapport with people that you work with, especially playing sports and especially basketball. There's only 5 guys on the court. You got to get a feel for people. And I would be concerned that he's comfortable being in Portland a gazillion miles away. And, all the talk from at least his camp, he ain't happy. The Pelicans shouldn't be happy.
Right.
He ain't happy. What is he not happy about? He's being paid and not playing. Chris, cut and run. I'm not kidding you. And we talked about it before he was drafted. We remember, he had been hurt before a number of times. This is not new, Chris. Not new.
It goes back to high school, basically.
Yes.
I don't hate your idea. And obviously, it depends on what I'm getting for him.
Oh, not give him away. I didn't say give him away, but I would be open to it.
What do you think you would get for him? The Knicks don't have enough. The Knicks would probably give you their whole franchise.
The Knicks would take him in a minute, right? But they don't have. Right.
I don't want that.
And they don't have any. Do they have any draft picks from somebody else, Chris? Maybe. I don't know what their draft pick selection is because they're not going to finish low enough for me to get a good pick.
Exactly. But the thing is, Rob, you probably can get a lot for him. You probably can get a star. Now, here's another guy I wouldn't
Somebody's always willing, Chris, to think that it'll work out in our situation.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's a talent. This is the first overall pick. What? All we got to do is get him healthy, and when he played, Chris, you can't stop him.
He did work. There's no doubt.
No doubt.
I would not do it for Ben Simmons. I think Philly would. I mean, obviously, I think they would because obviously I think Philly would.
Issues. Oh my God, I think they would.
But I wouldn't if I was New Orleans. Would you do it for Ben Simmons?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I wouldn't. I'm sorry. First of all, the Ben Simmons might not be happy in New Orleans, right? That could easily happen. Secondly, he's good. He's a legitimate all-star, but while I like him in some places, I mean, I don't think he's the cornerstone of a championship team. I think you can build around Ben and be a good team, and then you hope to add a player or two who's better than him, and then you got something going. So I like Ben in certain places. Like if I'm Portland, I'm starting to think more and more about giving up Damian Lillard for Ben and some other things. But New Orleans, Zion for Ben, I don't think I do that. Because I can't take a risk. I'm a small, and I guess Portland is the same way, but at least they're a more established franchise, Right. They're not New Orleans has just been one mess after the other, right? So, but, if I could get a young star, Rob, like somebody who is a star and maybe a few picks or whatever, I don't hate your idea. Because this dude is a real big question mark.
Too big. You know, Chris, what's the saying in business? Too big to fail, right? Too big to fail. Like when companies, when they have to bail them out because they can't afford for the company to close down or whatever. Too many things attached to it. Too big to fail. The New Orleans Pelicans, they can't fail with this one. They can't. They can't have a guy who's disgruntled, who doesn't want to be there, who's injury. They just went through that.
Well, Rob, if you trade him, I mean, unless you just get a deal that basically is better, like somebody that is as good or a sure thing like Zion, it's going to be viewed as a failure. I really think so.
No, I mean, you can't have a guy there who doesn't want to be there and then pushes his way out like AD.
After a year, after 1 or 2 years of the contract.
That's what I'm saying.
He's
That's what I mean. You can't have that.
You might as well move the franchise. I mean, real talk.
You can't have that. That would be devastating to have two players of that caliber. Let me ask you this,
and I don't know how much you've seen him. Would you do, like, if you're the Cavs, would you give up, say, Evan Mobley for Zion? Maybe Evan Mobley and Colin Sexton or something for Zion. Because Mobley,
I like Mobley. I like what he's playing, and look how good the Cavs are, Chris. They're playing well.
But man, if they got a Zion, it's just such a big question mark, man.
And then the other thing too is if you're the Cavaliers and you make that move, and Zion has a history of injury problems, you get killed.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You lose your gig.
And Mobley goes somewhere and becomes,
an all-star and all that.